Chapter 5. Advice from a Caterpillar. Alice ran until she was quite tired and out of breath. When at last she stopped, she leaned against a buttercup to rest herself. There was a large mushroom growing near her, very much bigger than herself, and when she stretched up on tiptoe and peeped over the edge, her eyes met those of a large blue caterpillar that was sitting on top quietly, smoking a long hookah and not taking the slightest notice of her or anything else. When at last the caterpillar spoke, it was in a slow, sleepy voice. "Who are you?" it asked. "I'm not quite sure," Alice replied shyly. "Being so many different sizes in one day is very confusing, you know." The caterpillar puffed away at the hookah and then asked again, "Who are you?" "I think you ought to tell me who you are," said Alice, feeling rather irritated. "That would be polite." She was just going to turn away when the caterpillar spoke again. "Can you remember anything?" it asked. "Anything at all?" The caterpillar puffed away for a time and then went on. "Like, you are old, Father William." Alice put her hands behind her back and began. "You are old, Father William," the young man said, "and your hair has become very white, and yet you incessantly stand on your head. Do you think, at your age, it is right?" "In my youth," Father William replied to his son, "I feared it might injure the brain, but now I am perfectly sure I have none. Why, do it again and again." "You are old," said the youth, "as I mentioned before, and have grown most uncommonly fat. Yet you turned a back somersault in at the door. Pray, what is the reason of that?" "In my youth," said the sage, as he shook his grey locks, "I kept all my limbs very supple. By the use of this ointment, 1 shilling the box. Allow me to sell you a couple?" "You are old," said the youth, "and your jaws are too weak for anything tougher than saw. Yet you finished the goose with the bones and the beak. Pray, how did you manage to do it?" "In my youth," said his father, "I took to the law and argued each case with my wife, and the muscular strength which it gave to my jaw has lasted the rest of my life." "You are old," said the youth. "One would hardly suppose that your eye was as steady as ever, yet balanced on an eel on the end of your nose. What made you so awfully clever?" "I have 3 questions, and that is enough," said his father. "Don't give yourself airs. Do you think I can listen all day to such stuff? Be off, or I'll kick you downstairs." "That's not quite right," said the caterpillar when Alice came to a stop. "I know," said Alice timidly. "Some of the words got changed." "Well, what size do you want to be?" the caterpillar suddenly demanded, and without waiting for a reply, he yawned once or twice and shook itself. Then it got down from the mushroom and began crawling away, merely remarking as it went, "One side will make you grow taller, and the other side shorter." Alice looked thoughtfully at the big mushroom. Then she broke a bit off the edge with each hand. A morsel from the left sent her shooting upwards until all she could see when she looked down was an immense length of neck, rising like a stalk out of a sea of green leaves. She was just practising bending her long neck when a large pigeon flew at her, and at the same time hissing, "Serpent, serpent!" "I'm not a serpent," said Alice. "I'm a girl, and if you think I'm looking for eggs, I'm not." "Then be off," said the pigeon. "This is my tree." Alice crouched down amongst the branches as well as she could until she remembered she had a piece of mushroom in her right hand and began nibbling it carefully. Soon she had succeeded in bringing herself down to her usual height, and she set off through the woods. After a time she came suddenly upon a little house. Alice saw at once that she was much too large to get into it. "Whoever lives there," Alice thought, "will be frightened out of their wits if they see me this size. and she began nibbling at the bit of mushroom in her right hand again until she considered she was the right size to go to the door and ask to be let in. Well, whoever lives there is not going to mind me now, she told herself. I'm the right size for their little house.